Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is now Thursday, December the 11th, as we're inching ever so close to the matchup this Sunday against the Denver Broncos. Obviously, two of the best teams in the National Football League, with the Packers traveling to Denver. Going to be an awesome game. We're excited to continue to dive into that matchup as the week goes along. But just wanted to kind of bring you guys a little bit of a head coaching head-to-head matchup episode real quick. Going to be a very brief episode. Just going to give you all of the details, all the rankings, let you know where these two guys match up. But more importantly, we're going to hear from the Broncos head coach, Sean Payton, as he sounded off with the media yesterday, talking about how important this game was, and a little comment about the crowd there in Denver as well. So we're going to dive into all that. A little bit different tune that Sean Payton's singing than Ben Johnson did there in the offseason, kind of stirring the pot, ruffling feathers, and talking about how he looked forward to beating Matt LaFleur, enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year. Sean Payton, a more grizzled veteran coach, obviously way more decorated in terms of wins. We'll talk about their each coach's winning percentage and where they rank all time. Obviously, he's a Super Bowl winning coach, kind of handcrafted Drew Brees into the quarterback he was so good there in the back half of his career as well. So we'll jump into that and dive into all the details. Before we do, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning in to PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you, talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you click subscribe, hit that like button for us, and make sure you click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live anytime in the future. Like probably early this afternoon, we'll do another episode. We got a little bit of information on Josh Jacobs. We'll bring you guys when we get a little more details there in terms of his injury status. And we'll continue tonight at 6 p.m. Central, most likely, to do a PFF preview of the Packers versus Broncos as we continue to move forward. So let's waste no more time. Let's jump in here. Appreciate everybody in the chat. If y'all would smash that like button on the way in. This was tweeted out by DNVR_Broncos over on X. And this was Sean Payton being asked about being underdogs to the Green Bay Packers, which is kind of rare, right? You got a team that has a better winning percentage, a better record, if you will, than the Green Bay Packers. However, they're at home as well, which typically gets you 1.5 to 3 points in terms of the favorite. And the fact that the Packers are, last I checked, 2-point favorites in this game, Sean Payton was asked about that, and here were his comments leading up to the Packers-Broncos matchup.
In a row, you're at home, and yet you're an underdog. How do you?
I don't really pay attention to that until, look, we know we're playing a good football team, and so that's something that we have no control over. We've got 4 tough opponents the next 4 weeks. 3 of the 4 of them are at home. We're counting on our crowd this week, not just at the line of scrimmage, but while they're in the huddle. I go back to a few weeks ago.
You guys remember Denver has one of the loudest, maybe the loudest stadium in the league. I remember they're always comparing the decibels or looking at the decibels, right? That obviously the crowd reaches there in Denver. You always think of the camera too. Anytime you watch a game in Denver, seems like when the crowd gets really loud on third down, you see that the cameras actually shake in the stadium, right? It's a hell of a place to play a ball game. One of my favorite venues in the league for sure.
And that communication that exists from the opponent when they're in the huddle, you'd be surprised when some teams' stadiums have it figured out. The quarterback to the group in the huddle, if that at all gets blurry, you have problems. And I thought our last home game with Kansas City was significant, and I'm counting on it being even at a higher level. So, we're playing a good team.
So love it. Again, whole different tune than Ben Johnson, right? He's talking about how they're playing a really good team in the Green Bay Packers. As everybody's pointing out in the chat, I know Andy Dubs and you're talking about fourth quarter. They really dial in. They seem to be a team that has some comeback wins as well. Sean Payton is an excellent NFL head coach. I think this is going to be a great measuring stick for this young Packers team. And if you can go into Denver and listen, yeah, they are the favorites. Again, keep in mind, guys, how the favorites operate. When Vegas is trying to set that line, what they're trying to do is project how can we get as close to 50% of the money on, like it's split right down the middle, because obviously they make their money off of the odds, right? And then, of course, as they tease that number, like basically what they're saying is if we set the Packers as 2-point favorites, we think that's going to give us our best shot at getting 50% of the money on one team, 50% on the other against the spread, or, for the spread. So that's kind of how they approach it. You open it up at 2, and then if the money starts to lean in one direction, sometimes it drags the line with it, right? It'll kind of point it to where you're trying to make it more enticing for gamblers, for fans to put money on the other side because, okay, now that pot's sweet enough. And of course you can tease it, and that changes the action on the game as well. So again, it's not a gambling segment. Just want to point out that's what they're shooting for. So what they seen was, okay, in order for us to get as close to 50% of the money as possible to open the line with, right, which is their ultimate goal, we need to make the Packers have to win the game by 3 points, essentially, or 2.5 points, wherever the line is now, in order for them to cover the spread, right? So what it's saying is, when you take into account the home field advantage and everything else, Vegas kind of sees this game as the Packers being really, I would kind of look at it like 4-point favorites. Now, it doesn't mean the Packers are going to win this game. Again, it's all about the money and kind of opening the lines. But it's interesting. I expected the Packers to be underdogs in this game. But like we pointed out last night on PTA, of course, as you open this week and you start to dive into the information, what you find is the Broncos have they've beaten some bad opponents and they barely squeaked by there. Now, again, you guys know I don't put a whole lot of stock in that because I think every team in the league is good. I think the difference between the worst team in the league and the best team in the league is like this. Now, most fans don't see it that way, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree, but for what it's worth, that's just kind of how I see that. Now, let's look at the coaching matchup here, okay? Let's start with winning percentage. This is a wild statistic here. I just tweeted this out not too long ago. And it's really, really cool to see Matt LaFleur continue to climb the ranks. I said this week's Packers versus Broncos matchup features 2 of the most successful play callers in NFL history. Matt LaFleur is now the 11th winningest coach in NFL history at 677. Again, that's winning percentage, okay? He's 677 winning percentage since taking over. I think they said he's to his win total, whatever that win total is, it's the second fastest behind only, I think, George Seifert, I believe it may have been. There was a really cool stat. You guys can go comb through the internet and look for that. And then, of course, Super Bowl champion Sean Payton ranks 24th all time at 628. To me, first of all, Sean Payton's a great head coach, right? He's had a lot of success throughout his career. The offenses that he created with Drew Brees and those guys down there in New Orleans were always top 3, top 5, in some cases the best offense in the league. He was really good at hiring defensive coordinators. That's another strength of his, is he had Greg Williams down there with him before everybody got kind of in trouble for Bountygate. Greg Williams was a dominant DC down there. I remember that one specifically. I'm pretty sure his last name was Williams. I think it was, because he had some ties with Washington when what was his name? I about said Sean Payton. Sean Taylor was a safety. He was real close to Sean Taylor when Sean Taylor busted in the league up there in Washington. And he's just a very, very aggressive DC, obviously Bountygate, right? But again, Sean Payton has really done a good job of hiring good defensive coordinators over the years. And I think that plays a lot into his winning percentage as well, which is that's a crucial trait for a head coach to have. Matt LaFleur has that, I believe. Now people, what are you talking about? He hired Joe Barry. People forget Joe Barry had a really good defense his first year. And the lack of adjustments and this and that. And in my opinion, the Vic Fangio scheme really tanked right about the time that you hired Joe Barry to install the Vic Fangio scheme. And people will say, well, it's still working in Philly. It's very, very altered today. But that too high shell, we caught it on the backside of its decline, right? And that's why you had one good year under Joe Barry, and then it kind of fizzled out, and you're looking up, and all of a sudden Joe Barry's last year with the Packers, what happened? We went to middle field close. We weren't even playing the Fangio scheme anymore because, again, teams caught on. With that being said, though, Matt LaFleur hiring Jeff Hafley, he handpicked him out of the crowd, and there was nobody going, yeah, Jeff Hafley, great hire. We were we were optimistic. We were interested. You looked at his coaching record and it was like, hey, he didn't do good in college ball. Of course, okay, when was he a DC? He had 1 year of experience as a co-defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Okay, no one could confirm for the longest time whether he was even calling plays there. So you're a little bit hesitant there. But lo and behold, Matt LaFleur knocked that out of the park as well. But again, man, the fact that you got Sean Payton, who's a borderline Hall of Fame coach. If he wins another Super Bowl, it's a slam dunk Hall of Fame coach. If he continues to win AFC championships and things like that and put his team in a position to play in the Super Bowl, he may be able to work his way into the Hall of Fame. But Matt LaFleur is damn near 50 points higher than Sean Payton in terms of winning percentage. I mean, that's a wild thing to think about. So, again, Matt LaFleur at 677. You got Sean Payton at 628. Now, let's talk about where they are currently. How do these teams match up in terms of their rankings? Now, these are two offensive coaches. They're two play callers. To the best of my knowledge, Sean Payton has called plays since he got to Denver. The entire time he's been the play caller. You guys correct me if I'm wrong there. There may be a short stint where he maybe relinquished it, or maybe they started and someone else was calling the plays, but his hands are all in this offensive scheme for Denver. So let's compare Matt LaFleur's offense this season to Sean Payton's offense this season. All right, here's some of the more important statistics that we talk about on this show all the time, right? Here's what we got. Let's talk scoring offense first. This is points per play. The Packers are ninth in the league in points per play right now. Denver is 16th. So again, what you're seeing is the Packers 7 spots higher than the Denver Broncos in terms of points per play, offensive scoring, getting points. What that does is it takes down the amount of points you score in a game and it divides it by the number of plays you actually had. So what it's saying is in points per play, every time you run an offensive play, you're averaging this many points that you end up earning throughout the course of the game. I like that over points per game personally. They're close in stature, but I feel like points per play tells more of the story there. Now let's talk about just moving the football, right? Because sometimes you can be a very, very efficient offense moving the ball down the field, but not get it in the end zone or maybe not get a field goal as often as you'd like. And that can affect, the points per play aspect. So in yards per play, right? The Green Bay Packers are 8th in the league in yards per play right now. Matt LaFleur's offense is. Denver is 15th. So once again, you're just seeing a one-spot slide. Actually, each team got one spot better in terms of yards per play. But again, what you're seeing here is Matt LaFleur has got a legit top 10 offense, even with all the injuries he's dealt with, losing their top target in Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson not coming back till the halfway point of the season, Jaden Reed just now getting back in the fold after leaving just 10 or 15 snaps into week 2, right? You're seeing Josh Jacobs, who's battled the injuries all year long as well. All these things coming into play here, man. The fact that the Packers are 8th in yards per play and Denver is 15th. Once again, Matt LaFleur has a better offense built and is a better offensive play caller this year than Sean Payton has been, all right, when you're comparing apples to apples. Let's go to passing game. Passing game, yards per pass attempt. The Green Bay Packers are now 5th in the league in yards per pass attempt. Denver Broncos, 28th. So now you're starting to see where the rubber meets the road. Okay, what's Denver's strength? What's their weakness, right? How does this thing come into play? What is it we're going to have to key in on trying to stop with Denver, and maybe something you're not as concerned with? Now, when he was in New Orleans, Sean Payton was dominant, right, in the passing game. That was their bread and butter. That's what they were great at. Denver, they've got more of a running attack, seeing that their passing game is 28th in the league right now. Okay, so again, Matt LaFleur's offense, 5th best passing offense, yards per pass attempt. Denver, 28th in yards per pass attempt. Let's go on to the running game. This is where Denver has the edge, all right? In running game, yards per carry or yards per rush attempt, okay? Denver is 10th in the league in yards per rush attempt. Green Bay is 20th. Now, this is no surprise to us Packer fans. We've seen it all year long. The run blocking has been pretty bad. Josh Jacobs continues to just make magic happen somehow, some way in crucial situations. Like last week, we ran the toss play as almost like a counter start look with a toss play, and he had 4 guys on him at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and Josh Jacobs somehow makes all 4 of them miss and picks up 21 yards. Explosive run, set up the game-winning touchdown there, right? The game-winning score, essentially. So with that being said, Green Bay's still 20th in the league in rushing. Yards per carry, yards per rush attempt, Denver is 10th. So now we see, all right, we're probably not as concerned with their passing game, Doesn't mean you ignore it. Doesn't mean you don't key in on the analytics and you look at the tendencies and what they like to do in trips and tray bunches. What do they like to do in nasty splits and their wide splits? What do they like to do in 11 personnel as opposed to 12 or 21, whatever it is they run? You still want to key in on the pass. But their strength, their bread and butter of their offense under Sean Payton is they have the 10th best rushing offense. This is starting to feel a lot like the Bears game. Am I right, guys? Here's the only difference. The Bears had a top 5 running offense. We had no problem shutting that down. I think we would agree, right? Later in the game, you could tell we started to bend a little bit, and we ended up winning the ball game, the pick in the end zone at the very end on the 4th and 1. But with Chicago, they had a top 5 rushing offense, and they had one of the worst defenses in the league. The difference between these teams is offense is built similarly, not quite as good of a rushing offense as Chicago, but Denver has a top 5, top 3, some would say the best defense in the entire National Football League. So we can't just depend on, okay, we're going to be able to score 28 points on the Denver Broncos. So that defense has really got to tighten up. Now, the other thing that we have in our favor is our turnover margin. We've been much better than Denver in terms of turnover margin, how many times we take the ball away compared to how many times we give the ball away. And that's the final number we're going to break down here. Giveaways per game. Green Bay is first in the league on offense in giveaways per game. That's what makes it so hilarious. Hearing the national sports media talking heads convince themselves that Jordan Love is reckless with the football. He's got 4 interceptions on the season, and Green Bay leads the league in giveaways per game in a positive fashion. It's kind of hard to describe what we're saying here without it coming off confusing. Green Bay is giving the ball away the least amount of anyone in the league right now. I think there's another team that's tied with them, but they're tied for first there. Denver is 8th in giving the ball away. So again, you've got 2 teams in the top 10 in protecting the football, right? So if their turnover margin isn't as good, theirs being obviously the Denver Broncos, and that means they're probably not taking the ball away as much. I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm going to make a quick reference here to our PTA power rankings. And when you sort by turnover margin, the Denver Broncos are currently sitting in the 21st spot. They're tied for 21st, all right, in turnover margin. That's where they sit. So what's that tell you, right? If they're protecting the football, they're not giving the ball, they're protecting the football to the tune of 8th best in the league, it means their defense is not taking the ball away. But they have a really, really good defense at stopping people, right? So go out there and protect the football, but also might want to take a couple shots here, be a little bit more aggressive against Denver because they haven't been able to take the ball away. Now, in order to take shots, you got to pass protect with them getting to the quarterback, and they've got one of the best pass rushes in the game as well. So just something else you got to kind of focus on there. But again, comparing these 2 head coaches, I mean, I feel like these are the most important offensive categories: scoring, yards, passing yards, running yards, and giveaways per game. Green Bay has the edge in scoring, the edge in yards, the edge in passing. The Broncos have the edge in rushing, and in giveaways per game, protecting the football, the Packers have the edge there as well. So that matches up really nice. So we started this whole show here, this episode, like, okay, how are the Broncos underdogs at home? When you look at it from the offense's perspective, you kind of see how they're underdogs, right? On the PTA power rankings, if we sort that A to Z, Denver has recently dropped a little bit on our rankings. Green Bay has risen now to 3rd best on our PTA power rankings with a score of 6.7, low number wins. The Denver Broncos have dropped to 7th now, and their score is a 9.7. So what you've got there is a 3-point difference in our PTA rankings. What's the line, guys? We do this every week. It's so cool, too. The line, last I checked, was 2.5 points. We've got it at 3 points. Now, our PTA power rankings do not factor in home field advantage, right? Which I got to be honest with you, I'm not as sold on that, but I understand. I've also got to check the ego and go, if Vegas thinks it's important, it's probably important. But again, many people believe that it's gone now from the traditional 3 points to 1.5 points, meaning that home field advantage doesn't matter as much anymore. That kind of caters to the way I feel as well on the inside. So it's going to be a great game, man. I think this is going to be one hell of a matchup. You've got a solid young quarterback. I think he's grading out around 73 in Bo Nix. You've got Jordan Love, who's playing MVP caliber football now through Toyotathon. You've got Matt LaFleur, who's the 11th winningest coach in terms of winning percentage all time in the National Football League. You got Sean Payton, who is a Super Bowl winning head coach who's sitting like 24th all time. It's wild to think like 24th is good, guys. 24th all time in winning percentage in the 100+ year history of the National Football League. It's just Matt LaFleur at 11th is like, holy cow, this dude, all Matt does is win, right? I think it's going to be a great game, and it'll probably, like always, come down to turnovers, right? That's probably what it'll end up being. And the fact that the Packers have a better turnover margin, matter of fact, I told you the Broncos were ranked here. Let me go back to it one more time here. Turnover margin, the Denver Broncos are ranked 21st. The Green Bay Packers in turnover margin are tied for 8th. That's significantly better. So if that trend continues and the Packers continue to protect the football, right, and they don't allow Denver to take the ball away and you win the turnover battle, I think the Packers do have a good chance of winning a close game in Denver. With that being said, too, I do want to mention that with this game, I had it picked as a loss, okay? But I also had the game the other day. Gosh, I've already forgot the schedule now. There was one recently that I had picked for the Packers. Oh, that was in Detroit. And this is preseason pickings too, by the way. So go easy on me. All right. Yeah, the matchup against on the road on Thanksgiving Day in Detroit, I had us winning at home week 1 and losing on the road on Thanksgiving. Well, we ended up winning both of those, right? I also had us, I think I had us beating the Eagles, but we lost that close game, right? So you're kind of seeing some trade-offs here throughout the season. And now at Denver was another game that I had us losing. Now, keep in mind, I had us somewhere between 11 and 13 wins when we opened the season, right? And then we talk about, okay, if you win 11 games, you're probably in the playoffs, which means you could have been able to, you were able to lose 2 of these last several games. I think we started talking like this going into the New York Giants game. We said, look, you can lose 2 more and still make the playoffs. Well, you beat the Giants, you beat the Vikings, you beat the Lions, you beat the Bears. So now we're down to however many games left. Let me drop this down real quick. We're now down to, what do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4 games. You could lose 2 of these next 4 and still make the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying I want that to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers run the table. I think you've got a legit shot to go into Denver and beat the Broncos. I believe that. I think you got a legit shot to go into Chicago and beat the Bears. Although me personally, I had us splitting with the Lions and splitting with the Vikings. Well, we've swept both. Well, we've swept the Lions and the Vikings are pretty down. Doesn't mean that's a slam dunk win at the end of the year, but I've kind of flipped those now. To me, it feels like if there's a game you're going to lose in the NFC North from here on out, it's probably going to be on the road in Chicago next week, as opposed to on the road in Minnesota, even though Minnesota put up 30 plus points last week and they had a pretty, pretty convincing game that they won. So maybe they're starting to click toward the end of the season, right? Not that it matters now. It's kind of too little too late. But that Baltimore game is not going to be a slam dunk, although Baltimore's playing bad football right now. But I do think there's a chance the Packers could win out, you know? I also think there's a chance you could lose 2 of these last 4. So go into Denver, take care of business, and then reset, get ready for a short week on the road in Chicago, right? And try to go out there and beat the Bears, sweep them. There would be nothing sweeter than sweeping the Bears, because now the conversation with Bears fans has shifted to, oh, yeah, good luck beating us in Soldier Field. I'm like, Bub, you realize Matt LaFleur, I think, is 14-1 in Soldier Field. That doesn't mean we're going to win this weekend. But what in the hell are you talking about to think this is a slam dunk win for you guys? It's wild to think about. So again, that's your remaining schedule, just to kind of give you guys a look at that. Now let's do this. Let's pop up the playoff simulator real quick and just take a quick glance at what's on the line for these 2 teams, and then we'll get out of here. Week 15, Packers at the Broncos. Okay, so notice in the AFC, the Broncos are the number 1 seed. If the Packers do win that game before any other games are played, they would drop to the number 2 seed, right? So the Patriots have got the Bills. If the Patriots take care of business, they would be the number 1 seed. Let's say the Patriots lose that game, all right, and the Bills win. The Broncos obviously still in the number 1 seed. So let's see if anybody can leap. I don't think they can. If Jacksonville were to win their game, they're still the 3 seed. So no one – what it's going to come down to for the Broncos to fall out of the number 1 seed would be for the Packers to beat them and the Patriots to win their game, or probably a tie. Yeah, a tie. Of course, the Patriots would still hold first place. So that's what's kind of on the line for the Broncos. The reason I mention that is because you're going to get the best version of the Broncos. They want that first round bye, right? They want the playoffs to run through Denver. So they're going to be going, not that they would, any other week, they say, oh, well, we're the 3 seed. Let's don't worry about this guy. I know that's not how it operates, but they have all the incentive in the world to go out there and beat the Green Bay Packers, right? Now, in the NFC, you get the Rams as the 1 seed, the Packers the 2, Eagles 3, Tampa 4, or Buccaneers for you. Seattle's 5th, San Francisco's 6th, and the Chicago Bears are 7th. So the Packers go out and take care of business this week. They're still going to hold the 2 seed. And if the Lions somehow, some way, they have every reason in the world to fight like hell against the Rams. They're fighting for their playoff lives, right? And they probably still don't really have a legit shot to make it. We'll see. There's still a lot of football left. But if the Lions beat the Rams, the Seattle Seahawks jump to the 1 seed, right? Now, if the Seahawks were to lose to the Colts, Phillip Rivers, if you needed another reason to keep your eye on the Phillip Rivers, 44 years old, going into Seattle trying to win a tough game on the road, if the Colts win that game, your Green Bay Packers are the number 1 seed. So Packers beat the Broncos, Lions beat the Rams, Colts beat the Seahawks. The Packers are the number 1 seed. Let's reset it and talk more realistically. I think the Seahawks take care of business. I think the Rams take care of business. And I think the Packers, let's say if that happens and the Packers win, right, we still hold on to the number 2 seed. If the Broncos beat us, we now drop to the number 7 seed before the Bears play. If the Bears beat the Cleveland Browns, they're holding on to the number 2 seed. However, if the Browns beat them, even with a loss, the Packers hold on to the number 2 seed. Now, let's see if a tie changes anything. Tie, same thing. With a tie, the Packers are still the number 2 seed. So that's how that sits there. Let's see if the Browns win that game, but the Eagles win their game. The Eagles already play. I thought let's see here. Eagles. There we go. So they play the Raiders. Yeah, good luck. Good luck with the Raiders beating them. If the Raiders win, obviously that happens. If the Eagles win, they still do not surpass the Packers as the number 2 seed. And that's with the Broncos losing, or the Broncos winning, obviously beating the Packers. So worst case scenario this week, if everything goes wrong, the Packers will still be the number 7 seed. Okay. That's just a quick look. And again, just want to show you what's on the line for the Broncos, what's on the line for the Packers. That's your quick little preview, Packers, Broncos. We're going to continue to dive into the game tonight. We'll look into more individual matchups. So make sure you hit that bell icon so you're notified when we go live like this throughout the day. We'll probably go live again in a couple of hours if I get a little bit of time set aside. So that'll be a lot of fun to get back in here and talk ball with you guys and gals as well. So let us know in the comments if you're watching this video back later. How do you feel about this matchup between Matt LaFleur and Sean Payton? Who do you think has the true edge there? We showed the offensive numbers. We'll get into some of the defensive numbers a little bit later and kind of compare maybe the DCs. That would be a fun little breakdown as well. We want to hear from you guys in the comments. Let us know how you see it. Make sure you hit like, subscribe. If this was your first time tuning into PTA, thank you all so much for checking out the channel. And if you want to help the channel out, all you got to do is just smash that like button. It helps more than you know. Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys so much for always jumping in here. I love just kind of, it's hard for me to stay focused because I'm trying to talk about the content. I'm also glancing over and I'm like, damn, the conversation in the chat is better than what the information I'm giving here. So you guys are just diehard fans and obviously always bringing the facts. So we appreciate everybody. If you would, just smash that like button. We'll see you guys a little bit later this afternoon and definitely tonight. This is PTA. My name's Clayton. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.